Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. Probably one of my favorites. If you haven't tasted fireside, maybe you should check it out. Pick up one of my teas. This one has that lapsang, that smokiness to it. I love it. Today we're live, hanging out, and instead of just me going live with you guys, it's going to be myself and Trevor Current. So let me go ahead and set Trevor up here. Let me see. Are you there, Trevor?
I am here.
Excellent. 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 So, guys, today we're going to be talking about both photo and tech. I want to get into a little bit of the conversation that we've had together in the last week. Some of the Starlink stuff, some of the photo stuff, and any kind of questions that you have. That's what I'm really interested in answering today. So I don't want to be on just too long. Sometimes I'll just go running on and on and on. You know, I got that ADD thing and I'll start just grabbing at flies or butterflies or whatever. So we don't want that, right? We don't want that. So if you have any questions during this live broadcast, in the chat window, put those questions, any comments, anything. Also, if you're not watching it live and you're watching it Memorex, you're watching it recorded after the fact, put any kind of questions that you have down in the comment area, and myself or Trevor will answer those for you. So anyways, before we get into it today, as I always say, if you haven't downloaded any of my ebooks as of yet, go check them out. Go over to JCristina.com/books. Once again, JCristina.com/books. So, Trevor, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How have you
Awesome.
been?
Good. Not bad. Not bad. Tell everyone who you are, and then we'll kind of get into the conversation a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Trevor Current. I am a graphic designer, website designer, um, former, I guess, kind of commercial photographer,
Yep.
videographer, jack of all trades, master of none, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I know that seems to be today. It's almost like you need to be a jack of all trades. There's a lot of people that used to be quote unquote a photographer, a professional photographer, and as of today, they're just not so much because they're not getting enough work, so they're having to do other things. So there's a lot of pro photographers that have now kind of migrated into, let's call it, pro-am, where they're doing something else professionally and the photography is kind of secondary. So things have definitely been changing. It's been changed. This whole world when it comes to photography, it's just kind of been on a downward spiral for quite some time. And there's a lot
Yep.
of reasons for it. And I know I've talked about it in the past, but we don't want to get into that on this show. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about was the conversation that we had. I did a video about the Sony E10 as well as the Nikon Z30. And we just looked at the E10 versus the Z30 to see which is a better camera for you. It doesn't matter if it's photo or if it's video. Both those cameras are definitely video centric. And they're very similar. There was one thing that I had wrong that people brought to my attention, as I said that the Nikon Z30 did not have in-body image stabilization, which it doesn't, but it does have digital stabilization. So it's basically identical to the Sony E10. So as of right now, you're seeing me on a Sony. We're recording this, or actually live, as well as recording it with a ZV-1. It's, I personally think it's I would say one of the best values out there for a small point and shoot that kind of does everything, a jack of all trades, master of none, but it does a fantastic job. And it actually came out as let's call it a YouTuber camera, some type of camera that people would use for doing video or personal videos or YouTube videos. So it was very popular. The other one that I wanted to talk to you about is the Canon, and I didn't talk about it in the video, the Canon M50 Mark II. So all three of these cameras are very proficient at doing any type of vlog material or small video production, let's say. Obviously, you're not going to use it for professional work, but for just like what we're doing here, they will all work perfectly. And once again, that's the ZV E10 as well as the Canon 50 Mark II. And once again, we always have that Nikon that people have been just raving about, the Nikon Z30. So I want to know, you guys, what do you think about these three cameras? In the comments, or I guess now in the chat, since we are live, put your thoughts. I want to hear from you. What do you think about these? Are any of these cameras interesting to you? So as far as your thoughts, Trevor, what do you think about these three cameras? I know you're looking for a camera for doing some video production work. Are any three of any of these three something that you would be interested in picking up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think any of the three would be just fine. I think it comes down to more just personal preference over anything else. The for my needs, so we're looking at doing in studio stuff. Right now, to be honest with you, I'm just shooting with my iPhone, and the iPhone, even the front camera on the iPhone, does a really, really good job. The camera I'm using right now to do this broadcast with, it's just simply a webcam. But with the webcam, I've got some software running, so I can actually dial in the contrast, the exposure, and color saturation, all that good stuff. So I can play with it a little bit more. So doing in studio stuff, I could certainly get away even with the webcam, just sitting right in front of the computer recording something, a screen capture or whatever, to go along with it. But for out in the field, so coming this fall, we're looking to get into doing school sports highlight clips. So this is for a website project that I've been working on for our local community, and we don't want to go in and like record a full length football game. I mean, that's just too much. But what we're doing is we're including sports highlights on the website. So being able to have clips
Right.
of maybe a key play or something like that would be great. So now, looking at, the amount of equipment that might be needed, really don't need that much. I mean, you get a camera, you get down near the sideline somewhere, or
Right.
you're up in a stand with a zoom on it, and you're following along, you're catching a couple key plays, and then you're done. So I think a camera like this would be just fine. I don't think I necessarily need like a full-blown video camera, like what
Right.
we would traditionally use.
Yeah.
Um,
No. More
and
than
the
more than
expense,
sufficient.
yeah, and the cost of them is cheap enough that you could actually buy a couple,
Right.
and you could have people at different locations shooting these clips at the same time.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. You know.
so I think they all have their value.
Absolutely. I think it's, let me see here. Frederick says they seem to, I guess, be like, there's already these similar cameras already in their stables. So, he's referencing all of the new stuff that's been coming out. It's almost like rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I've discussed this in the past, and I think that we're seeing it now front and center, where we see that the innovation in the photographic industry, even video, has really stifled. It's been stifled for a while, but it's at this point it's really become lethargic almost. And we've went from that innovation to iteration, where they're simply just iterating on what they already have, throwing in a couple little niceties here and there, and that is it. There's nothing like awe-inspiring. It reminds me of Adobe. Matter of fact, look at that. I'm wearing this shirt, right? Life After Adobe, cutting the cord series I put together when I cut the cord from Adobe. Once Adobe went to a paid model where you're constantly paying in perpetuity for their crap, what ended up happening is they no longer had incentive. There was no incentivification to go and make something wonderful. They would just iterate. It would just constantly be the same old stuff over and over and over. The reason being is there's, once again, no incentive, because they don't have to prove to you or coerce you into purchasing the next upgrade. They don't need to do it. Hence, they can just, once again, just simply iterate, because they're going to get paid no matter what. Whereas in the old days where you bought it, well, you'd say, well, I have CS 5.5. Well, CS 6.0 came out. Should I update? Yes, no. And if the answer is no, you just simply didn't. You just kept on using it. Well, that's kind of gone. That is no
Right.
longer the case. Let me just say, everyone that comes onto the channel that wants to talk about Starlink stuff, I'm at the Starlink, but it dropped out for a moment and flipped over to my AT&T with that new setup that I did. So I'm going to discuss that, and I'm going to keep this ping going so you can see it on the screen, and you can see if there's any type of request timeouts, or if there's any outages, or if the pings go up or whatnot. Right now we're seeing an average ping of, let's say, what do we got, about 30, 40, 50 milliseconds, somewhere around there. And we're broadcasting live. I'm taking in Trevor's stream, and I'm sending my stream as well as his, all put together, out to YouTube. So there's a lot going on. So I want to keep that up online just so that we have like a baseline, but this is kind of a test so you can see what Starlink can do. There's been a lot of people, there's a lot of questions that I want to get into. If you guys have any Starlink questions, put them into the chat window now, and I will get to them for sure. But there's a ton. I mean, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that have been coming out since I've put together the last just a couple of videos alone. So just bear that in mind. We're on Starlink. This is satellite, which is amazing, in LEO, low Earth orbit, and we're actually able to do this, which to me is amazing. But every once in a while, we do get those timeouts. So I'll get into more of that in just a second. So back into the photo stuff. I was looking at the E10 as well as the Z30 in a video that I did. And, you know, when you side by side these things and compare them, God, there's not a lot of difference to them. I mean, you have the Nikon with a 21 megapixel sensor, whereas the Sony has a 24 megapixel sensor, but supposedly the Nikon Z30 has a slightly better or more dynamic range, or it will be able to handle, let's say, a higher ISO, because its top boosted ISO is 204,800, whereas the Sony is 51,200. But as I said in the video, who really cares? Any video that you take, or any photo that you take at ISO 6400 or above, 12,800 with an APS-C sensor, I don't care. It's going to look like crap. Okay. You're going to have a lot of noise in it, and you're going to have to just smooth it all out after in post-production using whatever raw editor that is your favorite that you use. So, you know, to me, it doesn't even matter. These numbers mean absolutely diddly squat, because no one's going to be able to shoot at 51,200, let alone 204,800. It's not possible. And it's just, it's like, it's marketing. You know, it's for the people that are new to photography. They're like, oh, wow, this one, you know, can handle low light even better than this one. Well, can it really? You know, I wish I can get my hands on one of these so that I can do a test on it. But of course, you know, I'm not like the A crowd kind of guy. You know, they don't look at me as, you know, of any value. So, but the one thing that I did discuss was Sony has so many more lenses, obviously, because they've been doing this for a long time and they use the exact same mount, whereas the Nikon Z doesn't. And a lot of the lenses that are available are those kit lenses that have a variable f-stop to them, variable apertures. And to me, I just don't like those. If I'm going to buy a lens, I would rather it be heavier and more expensive and have a constant f-stop to it, an f2.8, an f1.8, 1.4, 1.2. I don't care what it is. I don't want to zoom in and everything get dark, or zoom in and now see the ISO go cranking up to who knows what, or shutter speed. You know, you have to, there's the Trinity, right? You have to take care of all three, you know, and if you don't, no matter what you do, you still have to work with your f-stop, you have to work with your shutter speed and your ISO and dial them all in. And it's just, that's one of the reasons why I don't like these kit lenses. There's other reasons. They're usually cheaper. They're kind of plasticky. Some of them are not that great at all. And of course, we don't have the sharpness for the most part. Now, has there been other kit lenses? And I think you have probably one of my favorite kit lenses. I think that's a 105, right? I think a Canon.
No,
Do you have
I don't
that?
have the 105.
You don't have that
I
one?
have the I have an 85.
You have an 85? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a very few kit lenses out there that would say, yes, go ahead and, grab it. For the most part, if you're buying a new camera today, guys, buy the body and then buy the lens that you feel you will need. My lens that I leave on the camera almost solely is my 24 to 70. That thing just is a workhorse and it does everything. Yeah, we have 50s and we have wides and we have 70 to 200s and really long. We got a lot of different lenses, tens of thousands of dollars of lenses, but that 24 to 70 sits there all the time. So if there was like one lens for me that I was to need or buy, I would just buy a 24 to 70 because it's going to do a lot of what I need it to do. So
Right.
as far as for you, what lenses are you using for the stuff that you're capturing?
Well, and again, right now, most of what I'm doing in studio is just with the phone. And Daryl said up in the comments before that he was using the iPhone 13 to
Right.
shoot some stuff for his wife. The wife's runs dogs the AKC Agility,
Oh, okay.
and he said he's really happy with the quality. And, I have to agree. I mean, I've played with the iPhone 13. I've shot some video with it, and both with the front and the rear-facing camera. Because, like here, sitting at the front of me, I've got a clamp on top of the monitor that I can pop the phone in. And the front camera on that iPhone 13 is really good. And that is certainly acceptable to do, you know, just some demo videos or something like that.
Hmm.
The back facing camera with the multiple cameras that are part of it, that are built into it and going through the zoom ranges and stuff, that those are really good as well. So I got to tell you, I mean, I was considering the Sony ZV-E10 until I played with the iPhone 13, and I'm sporting my old iPhone 7 here still, and it still
Right.
works, and I haven't been able to bring myself to getting rid of it. But the 14 should be out in September, another couple months, and I think at that point I'm going to make the upgrade to the phone, and at that point I will see whether I think another camera is necessary for doing this type of in studio work that I'm doing. But out in the field, as I was saying before, shooting the sports and stuff like that, I mean, the phone's just, I don't think it's going to cut it. It's just not going to have enough reach with the lenses. And at that point, you could put on a different lens. I mean, the kit lens that comes with the ZV-E10 is a zoom lens.
Right.
Um, and it's got the zoom button on the camera that you can move it in and out. My understanding is you have to buy specific lenses in order to be able to use that zoom function.
Right.
Otherwise, you're doing it by hand and stuff like that, which I mean, I guess is fine. But those lenses are really expensive. Those E-mount zoom lenses are really expensive. So,
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be using that. I mean, the kit lens, I mean, I'll figure out what the distance I can
Yeah.
reach with it and just move my feet. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Zoom with your feet. That's usually
Same
the
with your
best way
feet.
to zoom. When
Yep.
you can, or if you're not sitting at the top of a mountain or something, you don't want to zoom with your feet. But yeah,
Yep.
so I mean, yeah, there's once again there is a camera. There's the right camera for every single job, but not one camera does every job right. So you have to pick a camera that is good or that has the capabilities that you need. And a lot of people today don't even realize that the camera that they already have has so much functionality that they're not accessing. They have not a clue it's even there. And they don't know how to use the equipment very well to begin with, that they look at it as like, oh, I need to get a better camera and I'll get better photos. And that's not
Right.
necessarily the case. The
No.
hardware is not as important as the wetware in between the ears when it comes to
Right.
photography. Anything professional, no matter what you're doing professionally, that wetware is the most important thing. Now, I'm a DP, a director of photography. I do cam op work. There's a lot of stuff that I do, but even and on a professional side, And when I'm working on, like, for example, like an episodic TV program, or if we're working on a ad spot or whatever, we're using all different kinds of equipment. It doesn't really matter. It's not like, oh, we're only using Canon, C300s, 500s, or a C700 or something. No, we're using Sony's. We're using like an FX3, FX6, FX9. We're using EVA 1s, Panasonics. I hate them, but they're okay for what they do. And as long as you're pulling your own focus instead of relying on any type of autofocus, which Panasonic doesn't have because it's contrast
Right.
detect and not phase detect, it's still, it does the job well. So once again, there is a camera for every job, but you just have to know which one you need based on what you're going to do with it. And like for you, you might not need as expensive camera, but you might need a more expensive lens that's telephoto that you can
Right.
get in there deeper. You can also go with a teleconverter and
Right.
not have to spend as much on the camera itself. And that's why a lot of people go with these APS-C sensor cameras, is because they want that extra reach of the crop.
Right. Right.
um, so, that's probably, for you, if you're going to be working the sidelines, I would probably suggest not going with a full frame and going with an APS-C anyways, and then throwing on, any type of, maybe a 300 millimeter, 400 millimeter, something like that. Now you got the extra reach. Number one, 1.5, 1.6, if you're on Canon, obviously. And then if you want, you could do teleconverter on top of that. Now you're way out there. So,
Yeah. I
that's,
would be concerned about that though, shooting video. Shooting a still, I think, use a fast enough shutter, you can get it to look good. But I would be concerned shooting video that you get a lot of shake with that type of magnification.
yes,
Um,
and that's where you want to get some type of IS lens in combination
right.
with a
In body.
IBIS, or an in-body image stabilization camera. And when you marry the two together, you end up with a lot more stops of correction or
Right.
compensation. So once again, it's getting the right camera and marrying that camera to the right lens, which is really, really important. Let's get into some of these questions now. And then we'll kind of like circle back to the photo stuff. I know there's a lot of people here that want to hear about some of the Starlink stuff, because that's been really hot topic as of as of late. Any that you see, bring it up, and I'm going to go and look through these also. Let's see here. We have one from, let's see. Frederick says, I'm actually really confused by Starlink. Laugh out loud. Yeah. So, I don't know if you're using Starlink or if you don't know what Starlink is. Starlink is basically Elon Musk's foray, let's say, into internet, into being an ISP, an internet service provider, but not terrestrial. Okay, not ground. It's not fat cable. It's not fiber. It is satellite. But it's different than like a Viasat or someone like that, or a HughesNet or some kind of garbage like that, where those satellites are literally 1,000+ kilometers away from Earth. The way Elon has done it is he's put these satellites into low Earth orbit, or LEO, and those are right around, I believe they're right around 550 kilometers, right around there. So they're much lower. So what happens is you get lower latency. If you're connected to the right POP, which is a point of presence, I was able to see 19 milliseconds, 24 milliseconds. That is crazy fast from
Yeah.
using a
That's good.
satellite, service. That's, obviously it's not fiber where you got 0 milliseconds or 5 or 9 milliseconds, but still, 19 milliseconds, 24 milliseconds, I'll take that all day long. When we were originally went on board with Starlink, that's 8 months ago or something, we were getting close to 300 megs down and about 36 megs up. Sometimes we would hit 40 megs up. It was just wide open, right? There was no throttling. And then what ended up happening is they ended up releasing roaming. All right, Starlink roaming, Starlink RV. So if you're in a recreational vehicle, you can have Starlink. It gives you the ability to pause your service and stuff like that. But they also put out there Starlink Business. So what ended up happening at that time was, I predicted throttling that has been happening, is the speed has been degrading. Obviously, now, like I said, we're having these, I guess, this throttling going on. The speeds are slowing down and the latency is going up. They're adding more and more customers to their service, but they have not done anything else. Okay. So we're ending up with some issues and some problems. And matter of fact, one of the questions from Dust Devil says, right now I'm getting 9 megabits down from January with 180 megabits, which is absolutely horrendous. That is horrible. That is horrible.
Yeah.
From 180 meg down to like 9 meg. That's a big problem. And that should not be, because supposedly they're going to try to throttle, let's not call it throttling, but they are, right around 100 meg down. So they're trying to get everyone 100 meg. The problem with this is you're bringing in so many new people, number one, and number two, you have roaming people that are in those RVs that are, you know, moving around, that have this roaming service or this RV service. And so what ends up happening is for example, with me, I have Lion Country Safari, which is close to me, which is a zoo, let's say, but it's a big zoo, and they have an RV park and all kinds of stuff where you can go there and you can bring your tents and camp and all this stuff. Well, during like peak time, peak season, and now you have you have 100, 200, 300 RVers and campers and stuff, all using, maybe not all, but some of them using Starlink. It puts let's say it digresses my personal speed. Now, what Elon difference? And obviously, they're going to give those people priority over the regular residential. Knows that is absolutely required. What else do we have here, Trevor? Gotcha. Yeah, I see. I see that you dropped off completely. Let me go ahead and see if we can get you back over there. Hang in there 1 second. Oh, there you are. You are back.
Yeah, I think it will
So
bring me
yeah,
back
it's
automatically.
yeah. So the what's interesting here is that we have like a thunderstorm that's rolling in. So with this service, with Starlink or any satellite service, as you know, if you are a Dish Network user or a Direct TV user, as soon as there is some bad weather that comes in overhead, all of a sudden you start getting spooling and you start getting like this digitizing type of look on your screen. Well, that's
Right.
basically lack of communication with the satellite. You just simply can't communicate with it. So, you know, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to have. So I'm glad that it is happening so that we can see it and it's being documented because we're recording it. And
Yeah.
I left these pings on here too, rolling, so that later on we can look at this video and say, oh, okay, I see exactly where we have downtime. And there has been people that have dropped off. We had about 20, 30 people online. Now there's like 7 to 10 or whatever. So this is what ends up happening because they drop off. And for them to get back on, they have to reconnect. So, you know, it is a problem. It's not the best solution, but it kind of is what it is. It was better before. Let's see
Yeah.
here.
I mean, it's a good solution in the right scenario, in the right situation. I mean,
Right. Immediately switch over to AT&T.
okay.
That's one way. The other way is once the Starlink drops for X number of retries, it automatically switches over to the to the AT&T. And then as soon as Starlink
Okay.
starts working again, it goes from AT&T right back to Starlink. So that's just
Gotcha.
that's kind of how it works. And yeah, I can see definitely, and everyone watching can see on their screen too how the pings have been affected. And when we see the retry, we can see that there was a gap in service, or it could be a non-gap in the rain. It's possible too.
Right. Right.
So let's see what else we have here. Frederick says it's a physics thing. Absolutely. Lister Vanity says, my last question from your other video, can you please explain what custom DNS does? That's one of the new advanced settings after the Starlink app update. I'm going to do a video on custom DNS, so hang in there. I'll show you like how it actually works. Obviously, we can't really get into it in like just a discussion like this, but I will get into how, you know, what the purpose is. From the Starlink router, I'm going to bypass the Starlink router and see how that works. And then finally, I'm going to take the number of retries from 3 retries before it flips over to AT&T and change that to like 2 and then maybe 1 and see how that goes. So that's going to be some other videos that I do. And hopefully this helps people out because like I said, just because I'm using this router, this stuff will work with your router too. So hopefully this will help multiple people. Frederick says sensor size and light. Yes, absolutely. When we're talking about this, greetings. Let's see. Kit lenses registered. Yep. Let me see. If you see something that pops up, let me know.
Yeah, I totally dropped out from Ninja there.
Did you? Okay, you're back in. I see you.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, we got a question. Do you think that the speeds are going to get slower? I think the speeds that we're seeing right now are probably about as slow as they're going to get with Starlink. It's really pretty bad in a lot of different areas. But anyways, the way I see it as of right now, we're at a point where they're going to have to make some decisions. Number one, there's a lot of folks out there that want technical support and they can't get it. The tech support that they can get is through their ticketing system, and that's it. There's no phone number, there's no email address, there's no online 24-hour tech chat or anything like this. And this is a major, major problem. You know, people are coming to me for advice, and there's only so much that I can give them, you know, because for most of the time, I can't even get, you know, responses back from these people anymore either over at SpaceX. So whereas before they were replying pretty quickly, now sometimes it's days. You know, I've had a question that lasted like a week before I got. Definitely an issue. We see that Trevor has dropped off again. Let me make sure. Let me see if we can get Trevor back in here. Let's see. All right. There you are. Trevor is back.
Yeah, it looks like the whole YouTube stream just dropped.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of up and down, and
I've
it's
got a
definitely.
white screen.
Oh, really? Just refresh it. It'll pop back up. So this is what it. Hang in there, guys. We just swapped over completely to AT&T to see if we can get the stream at least rolling. We'll see if it ends up working.
No,
I
I
don't
came
know.
back in.
Yeah, you're in, but we can see that those pings are just really, really high. So I'm not sure if it, you know, how long that's going to work and at what quality it's going to work because it is AT&T, which is not the greatest of services, obviously, because it's slow. It doesn't have enough up speed, enough up bandwidth. So it's going to work very hard. But we'll just let that go for now and see if we can get a couple more questions answered. And then, you know, we might have to figure out to do another live once the weather kind of clears up here. Maybe
Yeah,
tomorrow, next day. But anyways, let's go see if you see any more questions in there. I want to kind of get into some of them. Frederick says,
yeah. Yar commented, I never understood the term rough weather until now.
yes,
Uh,
yes. No, I
you
know.
are correct.
Yeah, it's true. No, it is absolutely true. We're in South Florida. South Florida is like the king for just getting, you know, hurricanes and just bad weather. When the summer comes, it's horrible. Um, Steve Steve says, "Hey bud, hope all is well. Love your Starlink information. Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. I try to give people as much information as possible, and you know, I'm not a guru here. As I learn the Starlink stuff, I just give it to you guys, and then hopefully you can use that information. So I'm glad that you're getting something out of it. Frederick says the Nikon D4 still commands a high use. Yeah, so very high used price for the D4. It's a great camera. The D850 is a fantastic camera. Also, you don't need to buy a mirrorless camera just because it's the hot thing. It's not necessary for the majority of people. There is definitely applications where a mirrorless camera is valuable. Like if you were doing a wedding, let's say, and you want to be incognito and you don't want the clacking of the shutter banging around. You would shoot a mirrorless and you would have no problem with it. Some people like to look on the back of the screen. They want to chimp on the back all the time, and they want to see exactly what they're going to get before they get it, right? Kind of like WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. That's what you get with a mirrorless camera, whereas with the DSLR, instead of having an EVF, you have an OVF. What you see out the OVF is what the lens sees, and not exactly what it's going to capture. So it's a little bit different. I think a mirrorless camera is a great learning tool. That's my personal opinion. I think it's a fantastic learning tool because as you change your settings, you can see what is happening real time in comparison to taking a picture. The old school people like myself that used to shoot film, you didn't know what the hell you're going to get until you developed the film, right? So you just had to know.
Right.
There was no, maybe, they always say, what is a professional photographer is always like the question. And some people will be like, 10,000 photographs. And I was talking to you, Trevor, just a moment ago about that. It's like, yeah, 10,000 photographs if you're a film, shooter. Yeah,
Right.
maybe that number, or even with the DSLR, maybe 10,000. With a mirrorless, you don't need 10,000 photos anymore. And what has happened is you need less and less and less because you are actually seeing and learning as you're shooting. So there's, you don't have to wait to see, what your shot looks like anymore. So it's definitely, for me, a learning tool. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, Kent had made a comment up above and said, I'm live streaming with 3 cams at the moment while watching you. No drops on Starlink. So
Wow,
obviously,
that's
yeah, I mean,
awesome.
obviously he's in a area where the weather is not
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
horrible
yeah.
right now.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And that's another thing. It has to do also of how many birds are overhead or how many satellites are overhead. Someone was saying that they were seeing up to like 7 satellites at any given time around them. That's amazing. Other locations on the map will see like 1 satellite or 2 that's flying by. So you end up with like that downtime. So it's not the easiest thing, and it really depends on how many birds, like I said, are overhead. And as all right, well, we switched over, so let's see how that goes. Trevor should be popping back up now. Sorry, guys. Once again, this is kind of just for fun. That's the whole idea, is we can just kind of hang out and kind of shoot it, and that's what's going on here. Let's see. What were you talking? What were you saying, Trevor, when I was gone?
yeah, so I was just talking about your AT&T wired connection and then switching back to Starlink, and if so, it should be better.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. So we'll
so
see.
we'll
Right. So
see.
right now it just I believe switched. I'm gonna go and check right now to see if it switched or not. Hang in there.
Okay.
Are kind of coming and going. Starlink service is unwatchable. Yeah, I can imagine that. It probably is not working out too well with the weather, but we'll give it a shot for a couple more minutes, and then what I'll do is I'll sign off, and then we'll do another one once we get into some good weather. Let's see here. Currently, so Ken says currently 45 down and 7 up with latency of 50 to 90. So That's not too bad. That's out of Calgary, Canada. It says, unfortunately, the closest POP or POP is in Montana or in Idaho. So, yeah, that is an issue. When you have these POPs that are farther away, you end up with higher latency. So that's just simply the way it is. It's sad, but it is what it is. As they put more POPs out there, it should decrease that. It should end up being better.
I just ran a speed test on my end, and just to make sure, just to make
Yeah.
sure that I wasn't contributing to the problem here, and I just got 128 down and 32 up.
You know what, guys?
So
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it even more difficult. Let me go ahead and I'm going to open up a speed test. Let me go to
yep,
fast and see what kind of speed Starlink is getting right now. There we go. Now this is with the upstream going and the downstream and all the rest of the stuff.
yep. Let's see where we're at.
Yep. So we're getting like 30, 40 meg down, 44 meg down, somewhere around there. Oh, wait, we hit 50. So that's it. We hit 50. So yeah, right now we're talking, it's not fantastic. It is definitely not fantastic. Normally we're seeing right around 100. So it's actually slower than its normal speed, which isn't great.
Yeah,
Now, matter of fact, let me go ahead and pull some. All right. So when we look at this, I'm located right here in South Florida. You can see even right now, there is not a lot of satellites around me. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're having some of the outages too, because I'm using a satellite all the way up here and there is no other satellites near me. So that is definitely a problem. Let's see. All right. So what I'm think I'm going to do is I'm going to we must have lost Trevor again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these images. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a list of all of these questions and I'm going to write them down and I'll probably do a video, a proper video, and answer some of these questions for you guys. So if you're watching me right now, bear that in mind that any questions that you put in here, also in the comments, any questions that you have, stick in there. And what I'll do is I will answer those in a video because obviously the live is not working well. I wish it was, but having the bad weather roll through, at least now we know that Starlink is just not going to work during heavy rainfall or whatnot. We know that there is that fade that happens, but it's really, really pretty bad. So anyways, guys, we've been on here for an hour. I wish I could have got to more questions answered, but it's just been really, really rough. I'm going to sign off and we will see you in the next one. Once again, any kind of questions you have down below in the comments, put those questions and I will get in there and answer them. Anyways, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.